The best football boot technologies are equal parts cool and effective. They have that wow factor, but at the same time, they actually make a difference when it comes to overall performance. However, the boot technologies that I'm about to show you definitely get the cool part right. However, when it comes to effectiveness, they're just not that effective at all, mainly because they don't do anything. What's going on, guys? Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you the top 5 coolest football boot technologies that don't actually do anything. If you guys enjoy the top 5 series on the channel and want to see more videos like this, please support this one with a like. And if you're new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on future content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. With all that said, in no particular order, here are some very cool but also very useless boot technologies. The Nike Mercurial Vapor Superfly 1, because it was Vapor Superfly before they just changed it to straight up Superfly, introduced a lot of brand new football boot tech. Not only was it the first Superfly model for the Mercurial series, it was the first one to feature Flywire cables, something that would become a staple of Nike's top-end model. Like the Vapor 4 SL, it continued on with the carbon fiber sole plate, but most importantly, and certainly the most useless element of this particular boot that I thought was the coolest thing ever as a child, the hollowed out studs. Now I know what you're thinking, Jeff, you're wrong. The holes in the studs actually allow Nike to shave as much weight as possible from the boots, and you'd be correct, given the fact that the Mercurial Superfly 1 was the lightest Mercurial to date at that point, not including the limited edition Carbon SL model. But here's the thing, as soon as you took 5 steps onto the pitch, those holes in the studs, they just got filled in with dirt and or mud. Now this is just a guess because Nike never published any official numbers on how much weight was actually saved by hollowing out the studs, but just using simple logic here, let's say that maybe there is 5 grams less weight because of the hollowed out studs. Do you not think that the little bit of mud that's gonna get clogged in these very small holes weighs that exact same 5 grams that would have been there in the first place? Now don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on the hollowed out studs at all. I thought it was the coolest thing as a kid, and honestly, I still think it's very cool. I wish they did something like this on the current Mercurials. The Superfly 1 was the first boot to feature the hollowed out studs, but it's something that they would include on future Superfly models and future Vapor models for a number of years, up until the Vapor 10 or Vapor 9, Vapor 10, and they cut out the holes completely, so we just don't have it anymore. But if this is something that they brought back, I wouldn't be unhappy about it. It's not that it impacts the performance of the boot negatively in any way at all. It's just more or less kind of useless. Very cool, but ultimately useless. Also, just as a side note, because I know somebody's gonna point it out, technically because there's a hole in the stud, there is less life to the length of the studs, meaning that when they start to wear down, once you get to that hole, the boots are basically broken. I don't really view that as a significant issue, but I guess if that's a worry or a concern, you probably wouldn't want boots with holes in the studs. Lace covers. They cover the laces. That's it. So the function of a lace cover is pretty self-explanatory. Whether or not they improve performance, however, is a matter of opinion. And when it comes to touch, I would argue that more material is always worse than less material. Yes, the laces are covered, but if you're adding more material on top of the laces to make for a cleaner touch, is it really a cleaner touch when you're adding more material between your foot and the ball? Lace cover design has also changed a lot over the years. You might not realize it, but the fold over flap tongue on an old school pair of Copas exists to cover the laces, the knot across the top of your foot, to make for a cleaner striking surface. Is that actually the case? No, it's just a giant chunk of leather added to the top of your foot that most people would rather not have there in the first place. But that at one point was considered boot technology because it's a lace cover. It evolved a lot over the years on the Predator series with these big fold over flap tongues that are held down by elasticated straps. Again, it's just added bulk on top of the foot. It looks great, but is it really improving performance? Definitely not. Then we had kind of a first take on a more modernized lace cover in 2004 with the OG F50 model that had a very interesting design. This is almost part of the boot rather than a lace cover, but again, is it really improving performance because of this design? Probably not. And then we had this very weird kind of loose lace cover on the Vapor 4 that some people loved, some people hated, most people actually hated it. Not necessary. One brand even went as far as to add a zipper to their lace cover. When I was a kid, the Nike Mercurial Vapor 4 SL got me very, very excited, and for one reason only: the carbon fiber sole plate. Not only does it look incredible, not only does carbon fiber scream lightweight, strong, and expensive, it just has that wow factor. I don't think there's anybody on planet Earth that thinks that this is uncool. Here's the thing though, as cool as it is, it doesn't actually make for any kind of performance benefit. Now, I recently made a video where I told the story of how I had my heart broken by a pair of Mercurial Vapor 4 SLs and the carbon fiber sole plate. If you missed that video, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen. But basically, long story short, there were some major durability issues with this first generation carbon fiber sole plate on the Vapor 4 SL, where it would crack in the middle almost guaranteed within the first couple weeks of use. Either way, it is something that Nike would improve over future generations. The Superfly 1, 2, and 3 all featured carbon fiber sole plates. They rolled out the Elite series where they incorporated carbon fiber sole plates on the Tiempo, T90, and CTR 360 line. It was all very cool, and because nobody else was doing carbon fiber, it allowed Nike to charge some ridiculously high prices for anything that had this very cool, highly sought after sole plate. And it performs great, it feels great, but then in 2010, Adidas put out the F50 Adizero that was entirely made out of plastic, and granted does feel very plasticky, but it was way lighter than the super light, super premium, super expensive carbon fiber sole plates that Nike was pushing for the last couple of years. And it basically made this an obsolete technology. As cool and premium as Nike's carbon fiber sole plate was, with really the whole angle behind it was to make for the lightest possible boots, Adidas proved that plastic technology had gotten to a point where they could make boots out of plastic that were way lighter than the Nike carbon fiber ones, way cheaper than the Nike carbon fiber ones, and ultimately better overall if we're being realistic. Because while this looks incredible, it kind of just feels like a regular sole plate. Or at least the difference isn't as significant as you'd expect. And to be fair to carbon fiber technology, there's no doubt that they can make carbon fiber much lighter and much stronger than plastic, but in the form of a football boot, in order to achieve that level of quality and that level of craftsmanship, you'd probably be paying $800 to $1,200 for a single pair of football boots made out of ultra premium carbon fiber, which I don't think anybody really wants to do. Therefore, plastic boots are probably the way to go. What's more comfortable than a pair of socks? Answer: nothing, which is why we now have sock boots, because they're more comfortable apparently, even though the first ones definitely gave you blisters almost 100% guaranteed. And ankle support, there's lots of that. This is pure ankle support. In 2014, Adidas unveiled the Primeknit FS, a knee-high, extremely goofy pair of football boots that would never see the light of day, while Nike, on the other hand, put out the Magista Obro 1 and the Mercurial Superfly 4, the return of the Superfly, and the introduction of mid-cut knitted football boots, aka sock boots. Aside from the fact that these were the first boots to feature a knitted upper, something that would become very popular in the football boot industry, when this boot first launched, all the attention was on the fact that it had a mid-cut design, this extra bit of elasticated material wrapping your ankle that some people viewed as an ankle support element, some people viewed it as a comfort element. But the marketing pitch from Nike is that the logic behind this was, if they were going to make a sock-like upper made out of knitted material, didn't it just make sense to extend it into your ankle area and up your leg as a pair of socks would fit? And that's really the logic behind it. It was supposed to create this seamless transition from your leg to your foot. No real performance benefit, just a difference when it came to fit and feel. And that's really all mid-cut collars ever set out to be, to create this seamless transition from your leg to your foot, and to give the boots a unique look, or at least something that we had never really seen before. Some people love the look, some people hate it, but there was never any intention of restricting movement of the ankle or adding ankle support. That's something that people just straight up made up. So if you want to believe that your mid-cut boots give you ankle support, by all means go and do so, but the reality of the situation is that this is just sock-like material. Socks never gave you ankle support, so this doesn't either. It's a very cool football boot technology that ultimately doesn't do anything. Except if you're playing on turf, it doesn't let the little rubber pellets get inside, which I guess is kind of convenient. That was, however, an unintended benefit. The Superfly 1 introduced so much new tech to the football boot industry that it would be a very difficult boot to follow up, but Nike did with the Superfly 2. It maintained the Flywire, it maintained the Teijin synthetic, it maintained the carbon fiber sole plate, even the hollowed out studs, but they added one new technology that would prove to be completely useless, and that is the Nike Sense studs. Positioned on the medial side of the forefoot as well as at the tip of the toe, you're gonna find two little bladed studs with a circular stud pushing through the middle. It has an orange tip and a little bit of a translucent middle part. That translucent middle part is to show the Sense stud mechanism that is apparently in there. It's pretty much impossible to see. And if you saw any of the advertising for the Superfly 2, it showed Zlatan Ibrahimovic, it showed Cristiano Ronaldo basically running with this side view of the field where you could see these studs sticking out through the middle and clawing into the ground. The idea with the Sense stud is that this central conical piece through the middle would actually extend when the ground was softer and retract when the ground was harder, basically allowing the stud pattern to adapt to the playing surface, therefore allowing for ultimate traction. Here's the thing though, they don't move, like, at all. I'm not sure if this comes down to misleading marketing, but all the press material for these Sense studs really made it seem like this central conical stud sticking through the middle of this kind of donut-shaped opening would actually extend and retract pretty significantly. But if you look closely, it's all one single unit. It's not actually a standalone stud through the middle that has the ability to extend or retract. Basically, I don't think that this central stud moves any more than maybe 1/4 of a millimeter, and any movement just seems to be from the flex of the plastic due to the weight of your entire body standing on top of the boot. So realistically, the stud shape is unique, but the actual movement of the stud doesn't seem to happen at all. The concept of the Sense studs is very cool, but the execution is more or less a fail, and a fail from the perspective that the studs don't actually move. You can't see it, you can't feel it, but the actual performance of the stud pattern is very good, so I don't want to knock it in that way. These should have been called the Nike non-Sense studs. Okay, I'll stop. And I guess an honorable mention goes out to Nike ACC All Conditions Control technology. I'm of the opinion that it doesn't do anything at all. Some people swear by this technology, but at the end of the day, it's completely invisible. And if Nike doesn't physically write ACC on the upper of your football boots, there is absolutely no way to know that your boots do in fact have or don't have ACC. And for those that will ask why I didn't include laceless boots as a cool technology that's completely useless, well, it's not exactly useless, because if you buy a laceless boot, it is in fact laceless, which makes it different from other football boots that do have laces. The way it impacts performance will be positive or negative depending on the actual boot itself, as well as your personal preferences. So while I'm not a huge fan of laceless boots, I don't think that the technology as a whole is useless. I kind of think it's a little dumb, but not useless. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, please support it with a like, and let me know if I missed anything, because there are plenty of very cool but very useless technologies that I didn't discuss in today's video. These are just the 5 that I thought were the most cool and also the most useless at the same time. Other than that, if you have any questions regarding anything I talked about today, leave it down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. We'll be right back.